Hi everyone, how are you all? I hope you all are having a great day. Today I'm here to tell you all about my favorite thriller books. Books that once you start, you cannot help but turn pages. Books that if you are a thriller, suspense, mystery lover and you like to unravel secrets of people's minds and people's lives and you don't take anything on face value, these books would be an absolute gold for you. Books that if you do have a little Sherlock Holmes inside of you, these would be your best friend. Books that would not let you sleep at night, and even when you're not reading them, once you have read them, you'll keep asking questions and you'll keep analyzing situations from different angles because they are so good. Books that books that once you read, the characters will be like your shadows and they will be with you for many days following. So, for all the fellow thriller lovers, let's just embark on this journey and let's talk about my favorite thriller suspense books of all time. And God knows I read a lot of them. So, yeah, I have my notes ready with me. Let's go. So, if you are in market for some good thriller books recommendations, this is the video for you, my friend. So, I watch a lot of thriller based content and I read a lot of thriller based content. Here, I have a full list of seven thriller books that I love. And then there are a few honorable mentions as well. Grab a cup of coffee and let's talk about thriller. Okay, seventh. Let's go from 7 to 1, all right? Seventh is The Secrets of Us by Lucinda Berry. What happens is that there are two sisters. So I'm not going to tell you the full plot because otherwise, what's the point? And as a fellow thriller fan and as a fellow thriller reader, I think I owe you that much that I don't tell you the exact plot of what happens and all that. I'm not going to reveal the ending. That's a crime in thriller world, okay? So in The Secrets of Us, we get to explore a relationship between two foster sisters. They're not sister by blood, but because they were a part of the same kind of foster system, they were put in the same house and they spent their childhood and teenage years like sisters in a foster household. And they literally became like sisters and they had a lot of shared history together. Now what happens is one of them, Crystal, is a famous lawyer, and Nicole is married, and Nicole has her own life, okay? And suddenly Nicole's house catches fire, and we get to see that Nicole's husband, and he's injured, but he's not dead, but he's injured. But Nicole is arrested for his attempt to murder. And now Nicole is in this weird mental condition that she's not able to even like talk in straight sentences and she cannot keep her story straight. She's almost on the verge of insanity, and Crystal is desperate to find out the truth and scared for her sister's life. They have worked very hard and they have toiled very hard to build a decent life for both of them. So yeah, she's really scared for her sister, for her foster sister. And that's when we go through a lot of like flashbacks. Crystal investigates the mystery on her own with the help of her lawyer, and we get through a lot of flashbacks of what their childhood was, what it was like to be in that foster house, how was that foster household that they grew up in. Quite interesting, and it's a psychological thriller, and it takes you through ups and downs of a lot of emotions. Even the husband, who he's also very interesting and peculiar character, and we get to see into Nicole's and her husband's marriage and Crystal's career and how Crystal views men and how their childhood has shaped both of them. So very interesting. Do check it out. Okay, my tablet I keep getting logged out of this thing. Okay, the next one is The Husband's Secret by Liane Moriarty. Yes, it's the same author as Big Little Lies, as you all must have seen it. It's a beautiful web series that was on HBO. Yeah, you can catch it on Hotstar, starring Nicole Kidman, and I think Nine Perfect Strangers has also come out. It's the same author. So this Husband's Secret actually is, despite of Big Little Lies becoming the success that it is, it's one of her best-selling, even more successful novel than Big Little Lies. Husband's Secret is where this there's a family which actually on paper looks extremely normal, right? There's Cecilia, who lives with her husband and 3 daughters. All 3 daughters go to school, and they have a fairly normal, happy-go-lucky, healthy marriage. Okay. One day, she discovers a letter that her husband has left for her, and this only has to be read in case he dies. So, and she finds it, and nobody is there. She just finds it in her like attic or one of the boxes, random boxes lying around her house, and she is curious. What is it that her husband couldn't tell her when he was alive? And then she makes this beautiful choice of reading the letter despite the fact that her husband is still well and alive, and that creates a havoc. She gets to know a secret that her husband was keeping, which he didn't want to disclose it to his family while he was alive, because the burden of that secret was too much. That just shifts the entire plot, that just shifts the entire focus of the novel and just shakes things up. And it's a beautiful page turner. You're just so desperate. It's quite long. It's about 500 pages or so, and I feel like it could have been edited to made a little bit shorter. It's a bit of a chunky narrative for the kind of story or plot they had to tell, but it's still so good. It's so good. It's like a page turner. You would be hooked. You would not mind these 500 odd pages, right? So yeah, anyways, like mysteries that are woven around families that look normal on, like, from an onlooker's perspective. So yeah, do check this one out. Number 5 is Wrong Mother by Sophie Hannah. So you might know Sophie Hannah as one of these very impressive writers who writes mystery and thriller novels. Sophie Hannah is also one of the writers who has actually brought back to life Hercule Poirot, the main character of Agatha Christie's novels. So after she passed away, Sophie Hannah, she started writing. I think she has written 3 or 4 novels with Hercule Poirot as the lead character and as the lead detective, and she has included, definitely other detectives and other, supporting characters, try to imitate the style of Agatha Christie. So I'll tell you how I came across Sophie Hannah's fiction. So I was very curious. I'm a big Agatha Christie fan, right? So I was a bit curious as to if anyone was capable enough to you know to just imitate her style, and I wasn't really impressed with the Hercule Poirot novels. But then I started to look into her original literature, and my God, was I amused. Oh, I was surprised. It was beautiful. This one, Wrong Mother, is a psychological thriller. There is this first we meet Sally, okay? Sally Thornley. She's sort of like the main character of the book. She has 2 children who are under the age of 5 or 6, and her husband. And she comes back to her house, and she's very exhausted. And her story by that time, we feel like it's just about a mother who is really like exhausted, and because she has like 2 school-going kids, and she has a really high demanding career, not even a job, like high demanding career. And she's exhausted because she wants everything to be perfect. So we feel like it's again like one of the normal household mysteries. But once she sits down in her flat and opens the news, she sees the news of this family where this mother and her daughter, like her 5-year-old daughter, pardon my voice, were found dead in their house. And apparently, mother killed the 5 or 6-year-old daughter and then killed herself. And only surviving member of the family is the father. The father's name is Mark Bethrick or something like that. Yeah. And she looks at the name, and she looks at the father's face, and she's like, this is not the Mark that I know. So basically, this is the family that lives not too far away from their own house. And then she notices 2 things in the news. A, she knows who Mark is really, because she has had a secret acquaintance with him, and they have had their own story, and we get to know how they know each other. And second thing, the woman who died, the mother of the family, looks exactly like her, like resembles her to the T. And she is dumbfounded. So it is a Zeller and Waterhouse mystery. If you don't know who Zeller and Waterhouse are, Simon Waterhouse and Charlie Zeller are the lead detectives in every Sophie Hannah mystery, most of them. So they are the ones who actually uh, solve these mysteries, and they have their own shit going on, because they are fellow police officers. There's a romantic angle going over there, something, something. I am not really interested in what happens between them, or I usually am. It's my attitude, okay? Whenever I go through any detective fiction or anything like that, I'm not really concerned about what happens in the personal life of those investigators. That's why I really appreciated Agatha Christie not giving a lot of personal history and background to her detectives. Hercule Poirot, not married. Uh, Miss Marple, not married, doesn't have any personal life or anything like that. Uh, Tom and Tuppence married to each other, so no romantic angle possible somewhere else. So yeah, I really like that angle. So yeah, so I'm not really interested in Zayler and Waterhouse, but what they bring to the table as detectives is what I'm interested in. It's a psychological thriller, I would say, because they also go into a lot of detail to understand and discuss what family site is and why people kill themselves and their own families. And there's a lot of like psychology that gets discussed in the entire thing, and the psyche of the victims or the murderer or everything is discussed. The final reveal, I feel like, is a little weak, but I don't read thriller novels that much only for the quality of final reveal. I need to get invested in characters and the plot that got me to the final reveal, or the climax, or the ending, or whatever, however you would like to call it. So yeah, final reveal is not that exciting, but the way the plot is woven is something that really, really kept me hooked. Do check this one out. Okay, number 4 is The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. So, it's a very famous book, alright? There is this main character, Hannah. Her husband of 2-3 years, they're not married for a really long time. He disappears. He's a very hotshot rich guy, okay? He disappears, and then she gets to know that his company, the company or the startup in which him and his friend were working, and they were co-owners, that company has gotten into a huge scam on privacy. This company was actually working on making sure that the internet values data privacy, and then that company gets into like a weird kind of financial scam, and the co-owner, her husband's friend, is arrested, and her own husband is missing. Even though everyone claims that he didn't know the entire stuff, but still he is missing, and she feels like that he is missing because of the scam. Now she has to take care of her husband's daughter, from like previous marriage, who is a teenager and they don't gel well together, and she's desperate because her love of her life is just gone. And the entire time, we are also thinking that this is a classic thing where he has just disappeared, or because of a financial scam, and he's just absconding so that he can avoid prison. But the actual reality is quite different. What we unravel with Hannah, as Hannah starts to know her husband better and starts to unravel a lot of secrets related to her husband's life, is when the story gets interesting. Again, the final reveal is not that much, except the last scene, which is goose bump inducing. Other than that, the reveal is not that, again, not that fascinating. I mean, I could have guessed it like after like 10 or 20 pages back. I could have guessed it, and it was like, okay, that happened. But once we start knowing her husband better with her, that entire journey, chef's kiss. It's beautiful. So do check it out. For the true thriller fan, I think this is really nice. And as you must have noticed, that I'm very interested in female perspectives in mystery novels. So yeah, most of these thriller novels, you'll see that whatever I'm reading, there's a mosquito. Is either there's a female protagonist, or there's a female antagonist, or there's a female writer and stuff like that. Because female perspective and mysteries woven around families make it like take it one notch up, and that is something that I'm really truly invested in. Okay, the next one. The next one is, these three are golden, okay? The three that I'm going to tell you. Number 3 is The Last Mrs Parish. You are in for a ride. If you have picked that book up, your life is going to get sorted. Till you finish this up, if you're a true thriller fan, you're going to be a happy person. The Last Mrs Parish is written by Lynn Constantine and Valerie Constantine. It's a very famous book. So it starts with this conniving girl, okay, Amber, who just wants to climb up the rungs of social hierarchy and make a lot of money without working or anything, but just marrying someone rich or something like that. She meets this girl, Daphne, I think that's how you pronounce her, in a gym. And she follows her into the gym. Daphne is Mrs. Parish. She is married to a really, really, really rich guy, Mr. Parish, of course. And Amber tracks her down, and they meet in the gym, and they start talking. And Daphne starts talking about losing her sister to a disease when her sister was a teenager, when her younger sister was a teenager. And Amber, on the spot, makes up the fact that she also had a younger sister who was taken away from the same disease when she was a child. There was no sister, there was no disease, it was all a trap just to get closer to Daphne and just to develop a friendship between both of them. And Daphne is obviously touched, right? Because here is someone who actually understands what her pain is. Her sister, Daphne's sister, was her best friend, was her person. And she lost her when the sister was 16, right? So she still carries, she feels like she has to live for both of them. And she's a very emotional person that way. And she starts trusting Amber. They connect through this apparently shared pain, but Amber, all she wants is to climb up the rungs of social hierarchy. And you feel like, how is this person? Like, every character in this book is interesting, but when you look at Amber, you feel like this girl has no sense of consciousness. She doesn't have a sense of this is right, this is wrong, oh, what am I doing? I should not be doing this, I should not be hurting this person. She has absolutely no conception like that, and probably that makes it more interesting because we don't really read up characters like that, which makes it fun and interesting in a very twisted way for a reader to read. And but the plot twist that comes midway is something that you need to watch out for. If you feel like you know the story, like once you're midway in the book, you probably don't know nothing. So it's a book that will keep on giving you a lot of twists. And of course, I think at the last they overdid a bit. If you read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And please come back after reading this book and tell me in the comments what's the, if you have guessed it right, what is the plot that I'm talking about. In the last 10-20 pages, I feel like it became a bit overdone, which wasn't necessary. They could have edited those pages out. Other than that, this book is gold done. Do check it out. Number 2 is Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I think that's how you pronounce it. This book starts in a mental asylum where this where this famous, or infamous rather, artist slash murderess Alice is there. And she is there because she's mentally unstable, and she is there for a rehab, for her treatment. Years back, in a very, very famous case, a case that got a lot of news coverage, she murdered her own husband, and there was no doubt that she did it. Okay, there was absolutely no doubt. And she did it. She killed her husband, and she was just standing there. She didn't say anything. She didn't go anywhere. She didn't deny it. In fact, after murdering her husband, she didn't say anything. She didn't say anything at all. And she hadn't spoken a word, and it's been years after murdering her husband. She doesn't say why she did it. She just went mum. That's why it's called Silent Patient. But we are not told the story from her perspective. No, no, no. We are told the story from her doctor's perspective. Another doctor, whose name I have forgotten, which I shouldn't have, he joins this hospital, and he just joins this hospital because he wants to know Alice's story. He gets really, really fascinated by reading about Alice because Alice is a really famous artist by that point, and he's interested in art himself. He wants to know why Alice did it. Nobody knows, but there was no doubt, regarding DNA evidence or alibi or anything like that. She pleaded guilty right on. Her lawyers, they didn't fight for it. Just, it had to be. And because it felt like she was mentally unstable, she didn't go to prison. She went to the facility. He wants to decode this patient. So he has a very immaculate interest in her past life. She doesn't speak, right? So she comes to therapy sessions and she hits him and everything, but she doesn't speak. She doesn't reveal anything. But he starts meeting like people from her past life, starts exploring other things, and then things get interesting. For the 90% of the novel, you'll probably not know what's happening and you'll take it as an ordinary novel. But then it will hit you like that iceberg hit Titanic. I tell you, this is going to be so interesting. After 90%, the last 10% of the novel are goal done. Period. That's why it has made second place in my list. Not that it matters. This book is, I think, it's really, really, really famous award-winning book. But it's beautiful. What is also really, really beautiful is how they have portrayed Alice's emotions. Now, what happens is usually if a person doesn't speak, right? Like Alice is the the silent patient. So how do you decode a person who doesn't speak? And she's not even speaking as if she's thinking. We are not even going through her mind. She writes a diary. She keeps a diary, and her diary is how we get through her head. And that only comes, in few snippets. But yeah, it's so interesting. We also want to know what happened. Did Alice do it, or she didn't do it, or what's the scene? And we are rooting for this doctor. We want to be like that doctor's ally and accomplice to decode her. Very interesting book. If I tell you even one more sentence like beyond what I just said, I'll ruin it for you. Check it out. Honorable mentions. Before I tell you my first pick, I need to tell you my honorable mentions. Honorable mention number one, Haven't They Grown by Sophie Hannah. Sophie Hannah is back again with another book. I've only read 4 of her original fictions, and 2 of them have made the list. So that's how impressive I find her. Haven't They Grown is basically, it's a simple story, and I'll tell you in 2 sentences. There is this woman who's just going on a random evening to drop her teenage son off for a football practice. And she notices a house. There was a couple they used to be friends with, and they used to live in this house before they moved to Florida, America. This particular story is set in England. And they stopped being friends when their kids were like kids, like 17 years back. But she was curious, and for some reason, she just hangs around and she looks at the house, and she's curious to know who lives here now, who lives in that house now. And to her amazement, she sees her friend getting out of the car, who is supposed to be in Florida at the moment and who is supposed to be moved to like Florida 17 years back. And she's like, oh, okay, maybe they're back. And then she says, Thomas, Emily, get out of the car. And she talks to them in a very childish way. And she's like, come on. Thomas and Emily, who are her children, by the way. She's like, oh my God, Thomas is like 18 and Emily is like 15. Like stop talking to them like they're kids. But then she sees there are 2 people, 2 kids, literally a 5-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl. They get out of the car and she's talking to them and calling them Thomas and Emily. They are the same age, same face, same everything as she saw them last time 17 years ago. And she asked this question to herself. Why haven't they grown? Why in 17 years her friends' kids have not grown? Why are Thomas and Emily the same age as they were 17 years back? And hence the plot starts. Read this book. You will not be able to put it down. It's a small book. I think I finished it in 2-3 hours, but before I did it, I was not able to put it down. That's how much powerful it is. Next honorable mention is What Alice Has Forgotten. It is again by Liane Moriarty, the same writer who wrote Husband's Secret and Big Little Lies. What happens here is that Alice is this woman who is pregnant and she's gone for cycling for some reason. And then she hits her head and wakes up. And she's like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. I think I've lost the baby or whatever. And she goes to the hospital and they're like, you're not pregnant. She's like, of course, I'm expecting my first child. I'm 5 weeks pregnant. What do you mean? And then she starts talking to them about something. And then she's like, come on, this is 1998. And they're like, this is not 1998. This is 2008. So basically, she has hit her head and she forgot like 10 years of her life. It's not much as of a thriller, but it's just so interesting. And then she starts unraveling things, how her relationship with her husband, she has like 3 kids all of a sudden, her relationship with her sister, her relationship with herself. It has changed so much in these 10 years. It begs a question as to what will you do and how will you react if you forget about the 10 years that you have passed or spent in your life. It's beautiful. Go check it out. Now we are up for our last and like final contender, And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. It's my favorite thriller book of all times that I have read till now, and it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So this is about these, I think, 10 people who are invited by some kind of pretense to a bungalow, and then they are told that they are going to die because of some kind of crime that they have done. And then what have they done? Why are they dying? What is it? What's up with them? It all gets revealed slowly and slowly. And but how will they die? There is no host. Who will kill them? You don't know. But how they will die and the order and everything, it's given by a poem. There is actually a poem that exists which is called 10 Little Soldier Boys. And the entire plot and the order in which they die and how they're supposed to die is predetermined according to this poem. But still, even if you know this poem, even if you just Google, like after reading like first 20 pages of the novel, you go and Google this poem, still you won't know how it's going to happen. I will read that poem to you. 10 little soldier boys went out to dine. One choked his little self, and then there were 9. 9 little soldier boys stayed up very late. One overslept himself, and then there were 8. 8 little soldier boys traveling in Devon. One said he stayed there, and then there were 7. 7 little soldier boys chopping up sticks. One chopped himself in half, and then there were 6. 6 little soldier boys playing with a hive. A bumblebee stung one, and then there were 5. 5 little soldier boys going through a door. One stubbed his toe, and then there were 4. 4 little soldier boys going out to sea. A red herring swallowed one, and then there were 3. 3 little soldier boys walking in a zoo. A big bear hugged one, and then there were 2. 2 little soldier boys sitting in the sun. One got frizzled up, and then there was 1. 1 little soldier boy left all alone. He went and hanged himself, and then there were none. Exactly. Even after knowing this poem, you won't know and you won't guess what the plot is, and you need to read it to understand that. So go ahead and check out all these 9 or 10 books that I've told you about. If you're a true thriller fan, individually these books are not too long. Probably the longest is The Husband's Secret. But other than that, they are very concise books that you can maybe, if you're dedicated, and you will be, because they are all page turners, you will be able to read them and finish them in a day or two. So go ahead and read these books, and I hope you have a gala time reading. As a fellow reader, I wish you all the best. And if you find any of these recommendations useful and you enjoy them, please tell me in personal message or in comments. I will be waiting for your responses. If you like what I do here, if you like my content, like, share, and subscribe.